Hey guys, welcome again to our channel India Campus Guru, where we talk about all cyber security, SAP security, and IT security. So we try to make sure we share our knowledge with the experiences we have in our professional life with whatever work we have been doing, and try to help. And when you start from your college campuses and you're still early on your journey on the IT or the cyber or the SAP security side, we're trying to help you there. So today we're going to talk about how do we trace security issues related to user not able to do something. Like how do we, if you are supporting any customer or any project where you get a ticket or user reach out to you saying I cannot do something. So how do you trace what all T codes you should be running and which one you should use before, or again just trying to understand the whole process and the whole methodology against it, and then how you should take that ahead, right? So suppose I'm a user A and you're supporting from SAP security side, and I reach out to say I'm running a T code called ME21N, and I'm getting an authorization error saying you're not authorized for something. Okay, so the first thing, I think I have some video around that as well, like the T codes, but I'm trying to give like a demo here if I can. So the first T code you should ask them to run is uh, just again, there's a catch there. They have to run this T code immediately after they get the SAP authorization error saying you're not authorized for something. So if you're doing a screen sharing with him or her, or if you're communicating on email or by ticket, just tell them to type this T code slash NSU53. So what it does, it gives the last authorization error. Like if I'm running with my ID, I will get it for my ID, right? But if the user who's getting the error, if he or she run it immediately after they get the error, they will get the authorization object and whatever error they were getting, right? So if you type that, you can see like it's giving me, okay, this is my ID and blah blah blah, right? And because there was no authorization error for me, and there is nothing coming up there, right? So but for the user case, you would see authorization object or something there. So this is the first T code you should ask them, and again ask them to expand and give the full screenshot there. Okay, so and this SC53 can be sometimes misleading. You may see a lot of false positive there, so it's not always 100% accurate, and but it's still like a starting point where you should start with. So if you see like, okay, ME21N, or maybe he's getting an error for MEBK or whatever, like there are other, or maybe there is a security guy who's trying to create a user ID, or the basis guy, maybe you're getting a S user underscore GRP, S underscore user, based on whatever T code and authorization object are being checked for that activity. You would see showing us like a red, and the user is missing some authorization, right? So take that as like a first step. So that would be your first step. Second step would be, okay, maybe let me make sure the SC53 is right, because I can just wanna give them or add into a role just based on SC53. So you have to support SC53 along with your trace. So for trace, SAP had a T code called ST01, and now they have because it had some limitations there, which I will talk about briefly. Now they have a separate T code called ST auth trace. Okay, so difference between ST01 or ST01 and ST auth trace is ST01, suppose you have multiple application server in SAP, right? And in production system, you would probably have multiple based on the user system load and everything. So if I'm a user A, maybe I'm logged into a application A, and you as a security probably are logged into application B because of the load balancing and whatever things goes in the backend, right? So if I do ST01, I would not be able to see the trace, or if I enable trace in my app server, and if the user is running in different app server, the ST01 is not going to show up any error for that user, because we are not in logged in the same application server. So ST01 used to work perfectly, but as I said, there's a limitation there, and you can always try to find out which application server the user is. And there is a T code called AL08, right, which gives like a okay, all users logged on to all app server, right? So here you can see there are a few users there, right? But that's kind of tricky, right? Like if there are 1,000 4,000 users and you have to try to figure out which app server he or she has logged in, and then you have to enable um, ST01 in that app server. So that's why SAP came up with this ST right? So if I go to ST okay, so you can see there's a system wide trace here, right? If I click here, it will, again, I have only app server here on my sandbox system, but you would see all app server here. You can simply say select all, put the user ID here, right, and then activate trace. It will activate the trace, and then when the user has performed his or her activities, you have to deactivate the trace, and then you have to come here and put that user ID here, put the timelines, and say evaluate. So you will see all the different authorization error and everything there, right? So you got the point, right? I will click here and activate the trace. If you want to do just enable trace for everybody, which is not recommended because it can create a lot of big log files, but you can do that, right? But I will not do that here. But just to know, like, you have to put the user ID here, enable trace, and yeah, then deactivate, then come and analyze here. So that was your STAUTHTRACE. The benefit was because you can enable it for all the app servers instead of worrying about, oh, user is logged in into app server A and I'm logged into app server B. ST01, as you can see, there is only okay one screen. You would say, okay, I am enabling authorization check here, to check that box here, go to general filters, and then here you can put the for this user ID, right? You can also do some other RFCs and other traces, which is also used, I think, the ST05 T code, which our ABAP team uses a lot. I think it also kind of use the same backend BAPI program. So if you have enabled ST01, you may get somebody reaching out from ABAP team saying, we have to disable your trace because I'm trying to enable a ABAP code trace or something like that. But if you see for security, you would add user ID here, and then I think that's it. You will enable the trace on, trace off, and then you will do the analysis here, right? So, but you don't see a server option here, right? But you can see there are other like a kernel function, general ticket, and other HTTP call or FC call trace, which probably you would not be doing it. I think you would be focusing on the authorization check. But that was the main difference between ST01 and STAuthTrace. So I would definitely recommend to use STAuthTrace over ST01, right? And also, as I think SAP came with something called SAP User Trace. So let's see what the T code does. This is fairly new T code. It's not heavily used, but you can see it's kind of a similar thing here. You can say okay, all this different. So they're giving you more options here. You can actually okay, I'm doing a transaction trace, I'm doing a WebDinpro application trace, I'm doing a HTTP service or RFC function module trace. So if I do transaction trace here, right, I can just give a T code and then it will just trace and that T code, whosoever is performing that or that T code, or I can also filter on the user, right? So this is a fairly new T code. I would say you would be fine with STAuthTrace, but if you're trying to go more deep, okay, the Fiori ones and all these things coming up now, right? It was always a struggle if a Fiori where you have a lot of backend OData service and assignments and groups, it was hard to trace, right? So this ST user trace seems to the SAP's I would say response or solution for that, which probably I would say is not heavily used. I can maybe do like a just focus video on just ST user trace. Add your comments, give us a feedback if you want us to go deep into each of these T codes. But this was more like a quick demo just from your understanding perspective from security interview or anything you're trying to do. So our videos has been trying to focus on just trying to prep you, not going that deep. But if you guys want us to do like a big videos going deep in every step, I think we can definitely do that. But please add your comments, provide feedback on various channels, which details we have in our channel page and also on the videos. And like and subscribe if you want us to put more videos and motivate us. So thank you guys. Keep learning and take care. So for now, I would say we're good for now. And yeah, I think